The people who never post are not the ones missing out. You are. 90 minutes a day, edited for strangers. In the next few minutes, 5 signs someone has quietly stopped performing their life, and the one that isn't strength at all. Here's the rule nobody ever voted on. An unposted life doesn't quite count. If it wasn't documented, it was almost hypothetical. A trip that half happened, a dinner nobody can verify, a good year with no evidence attached. You've absorbed that rule so completely you stopped hearing it as a rule. And people who don't post on social media are the only ones openly refusing to pay it. So we explain them instead. He's insecure about how he looks. She's going through something she doesn't want anyone to see. They must be hiding something, because who wouldn't share a life that was actually good? Wrong on almost every count. And if part of you just got defensive reading that, hold on to it. You'll need it in about 4 minutes. There's a man named Reed, 34, commercial ATVAC, lives outside Tulsa. Last spring, he stood in his sister's backyard at a gender reveal party while a smoke cannon went off pink over the fence line. 6 phones went up at once, the same motion, like a wave rolling through a stadium. Reed stayed in his pocket. He watched his sister's face instead of watching a screen showing his sister's face. His brother-in-law noticed. Asked him about it later by the cooler, joking but not entirely, why he never posts anything. Reed said something about not being good at it, which wasn't true, and they both let it go. Hold on to Reed. We come back for him. 5 signs. The 4th one is going to be uncomfortable. Start with what posting actually is, because we've been calling it the wrong thing for 15 years. We call it sharing. Sharing is what happens when you hand someone a plate of food. What happens on a feed is closer to what the sociologist Irving Goffman spent his career describing. Human beings running a front stage and a backstage, permanently. Front stage is where you are when someone's watching. Posture adjusted, voice a half step warmer, the version of you that's been rehearsed enough to feel automatic. Backstage is the kitchen, where you drop the character, where you're allowed to be unimpressive. Goffman wrote that in 1959, before any of this existed, and it aged into something like a prophecy. Because what a feed actually asks of you is not that you share the backstage. It's that you convert the backstage into more front stage. The unremarkable Tuesday, the ugly crying breakup, the mediocre casserole, the kid mid-tantrum. All of it becomes material, tagged and captioned and made presentable. So people who don't post on social media aren't refusing to share. They're refusing to convert. They've decided some rooms of their life stay backstage, permanently. And that decision looks like absence from the outside because there's genuinely no way to display it. Which brings up the thing every other video on this subject skips. Some of you aren't private. You're hiding. And calling it privacy hurts less than calling it fear. Both look identical from the outside. Same empty profile, same year of silence. Sign 4 is where they separate. Sign 1. The moment is the destination, not the raw material. Researchers at Harvard put people in a scanner and found that talking about yourself lights up the same reward circuitry as food and money. In one version, people gave up actual cash for the chance to keep doing it. Psychologists call it self-referential processing. Your brain treats you as its favorite subject. That's not a flaw. It's why we have language. But a feed takes that wiring and puts a slot machine on top of it. The tell is that the reward has come unhooked. The event is complete when the event ends. You watch them at a concert and their arms are down. You watch them at dinner and the food gets eaten warm. They're not exercising restraint. Restraint implies wanting it and refusing. The posting just stopped registering as part of the experience. Like a step in a recipe they quietly dropped, and the food came out fine. Sign 2. They can be somewhere all the way. There's a well-documented bias called the spotlight effect. We badly overestimate how much other people notice us. You've spilled something on your shirt and spent 2 hours convinced the room was tracking it. The room forgot in 9 seconds. Posting keeps that spotlight switched on artificially. Part of you stands outside the moment, framing it, checking whether it'll read well. And that part isn't in the room with everyone else. It's in a small editing suite behind your eyes. Researchers at the University of Pennsylvania ran this in reverse. Students cut social media to 10 minutes a day per platform for 3 weeks. Loneliness dropped. Depressive symptoms dropped. Same life, same jobs, same apartments. They just stopped standing outside it, watching. That's what you're seeing when someone doesn't reach for their phone. Nothing's being suppressed. The editing suite is empty. Quick thing before sign 3. If any of this is landing a little too accurately, do the guy a favor and hit subscribe, because the next 4 minutes have the part that made this video worth making, including the sign nobody in this niche wants to say out loud. Sign 3. They've done the math on being evaluated. Psychologists have a name for what happens in your body when you know you're being judged by people whose opinion you can't control. Social evaluative threat. It's the single most reliable way to spike cortisol in a lab. Not pain, not deadlines, being watched and scored. Every post is a small submission to that. You choose the picture, write the caption, put it up, and then you check. Twice in the first 10 minutes, usually. People who don't post on social media haven't transcended that. They've priced it, honestly. 100 likes against 3 days of low-grade monitoring. They ran the trade and decided the exchange rate was bad. That's not avoidance. Avoidance is refusing to look at the bill. This is reading it and walking away. Sign 4. And this is where I lose some of you. Everything so far has been flattering. Here's the part that isn't. Not posting because you're settled is a boundary. Not posting because you're ashamed is a wall. From outside, they're the same silence, and the internet has spent 3 years congratulating both equally. A boundary has a door in it. The person behind it isn't posting because the moment already belongs to somebody. Them, their sister, the 4 people who were there. Ask a direct question and they'll answer it. They'll show you the photos on their phone at a kitchen table. The door opens when they choose to open it. A wall doesn't. Somebody stopped posting the year they gained weight. Somebody stopped after the divorce because every picture invited a comparison to one from before. Somebody stopped because a comment about their face in 11th grade is still, at 41, the loudest voice in the room. That's not a philosophy about privacy. That's an injury that learned to describe itself as one. And a wall can call itself a boundary for years while it quietly charges you things that have nothing to do with a phone. The party you skipped. The photo of your own kid you didn't take, because you'd have been in it. One question tells you which one you're holding. If every camera on Earth disappeared tomorrow and there was no audience left to fail in front of, would you live differently? A boundary says no. Same life either way. A wall says yes. Quietly, immediately, yes. Sign 5. They renegotiate instead of disappearing. This is the highest rung, and almost nobody talks about it. Sandra Petronio, a communication researcher, spent decades on how people manage private information. Her finding? Privacy isn't a personality setting. It's a running negotiation. You hold rules about who gets what, and you've revised yours 100 times without noticing. When those rules break, something you told one person shows up where it shouldn't. She calls it boundary turbulence. You feel it in your stomach before you can name it. So the mature version of not posting isn't silence, it's specificity. The sonogram went to 5 people by text. The new job got told to the 2 friends who'd watched them hate the old one. The hard year got handed to 1 person in a parking lot for 40 minutes. That's not withdrawal. It's the same information moving through a smaller, better chosen pipe. The opposite of a wall, which sends nothing to anyone and calls that peace. So the reframe, and it's an easy one to get backwards. Choosing not to post isn't a rejection of connection. It's a rejection of the audience as the unit of measurement. You can be deeply known by 6 people and invisible to 400, and the 6 is not the consolation prize. People who don't post on social media just work that out earlier than the rest of us. You're allowed to have a life that nobody is keeping score of. 3 things you can do with this. First, run the receipt test. Before you post, ask what happens to this moment if nobody sees it. Nothing changes? Post it. Enjoy it. It's fine. If the honest answer is that it stops feeling real. Sit with that. You've handed the verification of your own life to strangers. Second, Pick your audience by name instead of by size. One photo sent to 3 specific people does more for a relationship than the same photo shown to 400. The rules were always yours to set. Third, and this is the one that matters, find the thing you're not posting because you're ashamed of it, and tell exactly one person out loud. Not the feed. One person, in a car, in a kitchen. That's the whole difference between a boundary and a wall. A wall you defend, a door you open once and find out nothing bad happens. You don't owe the internet a receipt for your own life. Reed still doesn't post. There's a running joke about it at family things now, which he doesn't mind. What changed is small enough that nobody's noticed. He printed the pink smoke photo, the one he never took, the one his cousin sent him. It's on the fridge, where the only people who'll ever see it are people who've been in his kitchen. Tell me in the comments what the last thing was that you deliberately didn't post, and be honest about which one it was. A boundary or a wall? That second part is the whole conversation. If this landed, subscribe. This channel is for people who are done explaining themselves.